Let's move on now to the Tennessee Titans in our final 2023 offseason review. But before we do that, if you have not already, hit that subscribe button, like this video, and ring that bell to get notified when new Titans content comes out. Ryan and I, this is our last series of the free agency offseason section of the 2023 offseason before we switch over to previewing the 2023 NFL season, which means a lot more Titans content. So be sure to ring that bell so you can see when Titans content gets released. And Ryan, let's get into it.
Let's do it.
Tennessee Titans, this is the third video that we've done tonight of the AFC South teams, and they've almost have all been identical. Young rookie quarterbacks. Titans have a little bit different twist to it because most likely their rookie quarterback is not going to be starting week one. It's most likely going to be Ryan Tannehill. I would be shocked if it wasn't otherwise, unlike the other two. But definitely they're closer to a full rebuild, I would say, than like a pseudo rebuild. But I think that they address a lot of key needs. I like the free agents that they added in, the key ones that they added in on the defensive side. That we're only going to name a couple of the key ones, not going to name all of them. But at each level of the defense. And on the offensive side, they really address that offensive line, try to get back to the roots of what Titans football is about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I like what they did. I think it's going to be really interesting to see how it pans out for them because this is historically one of those teams that we have said is not going to be good, and then yet they still are playoff contenders.
It is still
in contention.
It is amazing that their last game of the season meant something. Like if you go look at this team, and not all of it has to do with the talent that was on the field. It was more just about some of the talent on the field, it's like they can do a lot with very little, if we're being completely honest. But then on top of that, they had so many freaking injuries. I think Derrick Henry was like the only guy that didn't get injured last year, ironically, of all people.
Injured the year before.
Yeah, and that was the year they were the number one seed, and then didn't do well in their first playoff game. So, but let's move on though. Now they didn't add in too many players, but I think the ones that they did add are going to be huge benefits to the team. This is through free agency. We're also talking about the draft, but let's go to the offensive side of the ball. I will just say kind of one huge area of concern for me is going to be their lack of additions in the receiver category.
Yeah.
So
no, definitely.
I'm going to pull up the screen.
Yeah.
It's
loading.
Oh, sorry.
No, you're good. I agree. I think you look at the weak spot of this team. They had the A.J. Brown, Julio Jones duo a couple seasons ago. Neither of those guys were on the team last season. And they really missed having that top receiver presence, right? They drafted Treylon Burks. He was in and out of the lineup a lot. And then they also had a lot of hopes for Kyle Phillips. And then he was also in and out of the lineup as well. So I just think getting those guys back, Nick Westbrook-Akina should also play a bigger role. And then I also like Chigoziem Okonkwo. He had a really nice rookie season last year. And Josh Wiley, their new tight end, should play a bigger role as well. Marginal additions, but still additions, in my opinion.
Well, and this is and then going on to then the benefits of what they've done in the offseason and also in the draft, but getting Andre Dillard in free agency, getting Daniel Brunskill in free agency as well, and then drafting Peter Skoronski, arguably, and what we talked about was one of the best offensive linemen, and if not the best offensive lineman, maybe not the best offensive tackle, just because he is a little bit on the smaller side, but will make a great guard, and because they want to run everything through Derrick Henry. They want everything run through Derrick Henry. And so having that strong offensive line will help them now, but also then will continue to help them in the future because eventually the keys will be handed over to Will Levis, who was personally arguably, I mean, you go back and forth between him and then Peter Skoronski, I think, as their best pick. But I think getting Will Levis in the second round and giving up very little for him than what they would have had to give up for him if they wanted to trade up. Well, I guess he was still available at 11, but getting Skoronski was way more important. But then Will Levis still being there in the second round. And by all reports, obviously I know it's rookie minicamp, but dude seems very intense. Seems like he is going to be very intense. By all reports, he is extremely intense, which is good. I think like you want the guy to be passionate. You want all these franchise quarterbacks or all these quarterbacks that were drafted here in the first 2 rounds were like extremely passionate and intense and like want to be successful for their franchises, which is what you want. He might be a little bit more intense, but there's a lot of good qualities I think that he has that fits exactly into what the Titans are looking for. So it's going to be very curious, similar to the other quarterback situation with the Colts and with the Texans in this division, on when that transition is going to happen. Like if they really start to suck 10 games into the season, do you hand it over to Levis and be like, hey, let's see what you got, kid?
No, well, I think definitely. To me, Ryan Tannehill, the clock's already ticking. I think you want to figure out what you have in Will Levis.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the sooner you can do that, the sooner you can start to prepare for the future, whether that's loading up in 2024 or stripping it down to the studs and starting over, right?
Yeah.
Because let's be honest, Derrick Henry has 1 or 2 good seasons left. I think he's 28 going on 29. And we all know what happens when running backs hit 30. He is a little bit more of a physical runner as well. So we saw an injury last season. I don't want this to happen, but I don't think it would be surprising to see another injury in his future with his style of play.
Yeah. So, I mean, you can't predict injuries. You can kind of start to predict when age starts to kind of play a factor. Like Tom Brady, everyone knew when he was 45, the wagon was going to fall off. But with running backs, it's normally a little bit of a younger age. And so I think at like 28, 29, like I agree with you. Like I can't believe he's been, I'm just seeing that now. I can't believe he was drafted in 2016. It feels like he's been in the league since like 2000. And so just seeing him, I just like throwing safeties to the ground.
Yeah.
So, but but if, as long as the juice is still in the legs, they have done the right things in this offense, I think, to make them be successful, because they want to win ugly games, 13-10, 17-14 type games. And it's going to then kind of segue into some of their offseason additions as well that I like. And as I said, they didn't bring in too many new players, but the ones that they did, I think, are going to have a big impact. Getting Arden Key from, I believe it was Jacksonville, if I'm not mistaken, if you could look it up for me, at the defensive line position, then getting Azeez Al-Shaair from San Francisco, and then Sean Murphy-Bunting as well. Great players that immediately help out all levels of the defense, because if they want to be successful, they're going to have a strong defense to kind of win these nasty games.
Yeah. No, and that is like the type of football I think Mike Vrabel wants to play. Right. Mm-hmm. He wants to run the ball 30 times a game with Derrick Henry. He wants to get after the quarterback and hit them. I think you look at when they went on that stretch 2 seasons ago, they had, I think they won 6 games or 7 games in a row. In each game, they had more than 4 sacks. They had at least 2 turnovers, and Derrick Henry had over 200 rushing yards. Yeah. I think that was the stat for their big 6-game winning streak. And then they hit a bunch of injuries in a rough patch, and then they still actually ended up being the 1 seed. Yeah. So to me, that is exactly what they've done all season. I would have liked to see them maybe get some more top-end talent in the draft. However, with trading up for Will Levis, they couldn't really they couldn't necessarily make that investment, because they made that investment in the offensive line and then with a potential future quarterback, which I think is understandable.
Well, and I think if I remember correctly, they only had 5 picks and it was all offensive. And to me, that was kind of their weakness all of last year, because I mean, we talked about it. Somehow, some way, they kept finding ways to stay in games, and it was very defensive heavy. And especially too, like if you look at who they lost, like DeMarcus Walker, Bud Dupree, there were other guys as well that they had lost that had a more noticeable. Which corner? They lost a corner, didn't they?
Caleb Farley, I think.
Is he still there? No. They drafted him, so he should still be on the roster. Unless they just cut him. Oh, okay. But Anyways, though, so the guys that they
Yeah.
lost and they replaced them with just as good, if not even better, guys at that position.
Yeah.
And the same thing on the offensive line, like replacing Taylor Lewan then with Andre Dillard, and then drafting Peter Skoronski. So they did a lot with a very little amount of maneuverability that they had, which I think makes it kind of one of the better off seasons in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think the Titans are going to continue to be competitive as long as Mike Vrabel is the coach. It'll be really interesting to see. I don't know if this team has the depth, I guess, to compete with just the Kansas Cities, the Philadelphia Eagles, right? The San Francisco 49ers, like the true top tier elite teams. But I think you look anywhere past that, I think that this team could definitely be competitive with them. And I think they could definitely be competing for the division at the end of the season again.
And that's one thing we've been wrapping up every segment so far is like what does a good season look like? And to me, I think if like this is kind of the last chapter I feel with the Ryan Tannehill, Derrick Henry combination. I think there's going to be a lot of other people that they move on from as well. That might be on the defensive side. Well, actually, I say that though the defensive side is fairly young, but just as the like face of the franchise, like Derrick Henry, Ryan Tannehill, I think this is kind of their last go at it with the Titans here. And to me, I think a successful season would be winning the division and just seeing how far they can go in the playoffs. I'm not saying it's out of the realm of possibility, but it's hard looking at this roster right here and seeing what Jacksonville was doing at the second half of last year. Obviously, seasons are totally different, but it's tough for me. If Jacksonville is the same team as they were at the end of last year, I don't see the Titans competing with Jacksonville. And this AFC division is very deep. Making a wild card spot is going to be tough for a team that's probably going to go 9-8 at best.
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree. I just think with the way that the Titans have historically played, I think that they'll find ways to grind out.
It's possible.
Grind out wins.
I agree. It is possible. So it's Nashville. A lot of bars down here. People just love to grind down here, and so they really respect that.
Oh my gosh. Okay. With that being said, I think we're going to wrap up the Titans offseason recap there. If you guys have not already, please go ahead and like and subscribe and leave a comment down below on what your favorite Titans offseason signing draftee was. Let us know down below. Other than that, we will see you guys next time.